Hi, my name is Karen Phillip, and this is the Common Sense Steps to Doing Good podcast. I am a passionate do-gooder. I have always been interested in how could I make other person's life comfortable? How could I leave the world in a better way than when I joined it? I always knew that I wanted to do good, but how I was going to do good, I wasn't so sure. And even now, I'm still not sure. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, because it might seem common, but my life has been quite uncommon. And it's been dedicated to doing good. And there's so many other persons who do good that I want to hear about who they are. Doing good has been a roller coaster, a fun ride, but a very scary ride, because as I said, I don't always know how I was going to do good. I had the vision of running a children's home, from being a missionary to wanting to work in churches. I've just been all over the place, just trying to do good. And even when I thought I figured out how I was going to do good by studying social work, when I started to work in the field, I realized, well, this is not really the place for my skills and for me. And I had to change one more time. So one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about who is there is that there's so many of us doing good, and persons aren't recognizing who we are and what it is that we go through. And instead of preaching, I just wanted to create a space where persons could talk about their joys of doing good, their struggles of doing good, and then what advice that they have for future ones, because I struggled with figuring out how to do good and where to do good. So maybe this could help somebody else know where and how to do good. I found that a lot of material that's out there for social development is preaching about what we need and how we could change ourselves and how we could be better. And there just wasn't any space for social development practitioners on either if they're grassroots or if they're technical expertise to just talk about who they are. And the sector seems to be very busy but yet unknown as well. Like, who are the faces, who are the persons on the ground that's doing the work? There's a whole sector, and we have so many names for the sector: civil society sector, third sector, non-profit sector, all these names. But the point is, there's a gap between what the government and private sector does that we, the do-gooders, fill. We are the ones that are on the ground trying to ensure that when COVID happened, that hampers are out there. We are the ones that are trying to ensure that policymakers actually know what's going on the floor, where their ears, where their hands and feet, letting them know if persons need clothes, if they need policies that address climate change, what it is that's going on. And we have the voice, but people can't seem to put a face or a career to what it is that we do. I always believe in documenting. I believe in having an archive, having a thing that we could look back and that we could learn from. And this podcast is a passion project for me. It's something that I wanted to do, to try to document, to show persons that they're not alone, that it's not a lonely road in doing good, that other persons are experiencing the same thing. And so I would say that the main target audience are other do-gooders in the region, giving them a face to what it is that we do and who's doing it. And then also for those outside of the Caribbean region, those who want to connect with their Caribbean roots, to be like, oh, they're doing amazing week in Jamaica, they're doing amazing week in Trinidad and Tobago or Barbados or Suriname or Guyana, and I would like to support them. How could I get involved? Or just words of encouragement, even if it is that they can't partner with persons. This podcast is a collective from within and without the Caribbean region. We have Sharilyn Hale from Watermark Philanthropy, and she's a researcher, a teacher, and she just helps persons do good. And then we have DJ Osei. She is a Jamaican living in America who helps corporations do good because she focuses on corporate social responsibilities. And we have Leanne Worrell and Christian Herbert, who are do-gooders who are my support system. And then we have Ronako Bailey from We Talking Boys, who work with men and creating safe and brave spaces for them to talk about masculinity. And Carrie Ann Hurley, who is a singer and also a sexual reproductive health social worker. So Christian and Leanne are my unofficial board members. When I have an idea, I bounce it off of them. They tell me if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, they tell me whether there's funding available for something, or if there's a room that they think that I should be in, how to be in it. And I do the same for them as well. We are, I guess, the technical experts on this side of doing good. So we know the struggles of report writing. We know the struggles of trying to ensure that everything is in place so that those who are on the front line can execute. So one of the things that I love about do-gooders is that even when we don't realize it, we're always just dropping like words of wisdom and nuggets. And one of the episodes we talked about the fact that your alignment determines your assignment, and always to remember who you align with or wherever you're going has to have a vision. You have to have your mission. You have to be focused and work towards it. So even if your strategy changes, your goals shouldn't change. And that's something for me who has been fluctuating on this do-gooding journey. I have to remember that my purpose, my call is to leave the world a better place than when I started. And I love that. And then when we talked about understanding that we play different roles in doing good in it, whether it is that you're on the front line and that you are the ones who are day to day interacting with the persons, or whether you're in the office behind the laptop, you are just as important. And no role is it's too small or too big. It's equal, and it pushes us forward together. And also the importance of community, that you can't do it without community or without a good support system. Like that was a common trend of how people are allowed to do good. They are allowed to have a life. They are allowed to look outside of themselves because somebody's helping them take care. Somebody's speaking into them and being like, you're right. I shouldn't do that. Or no, I should not be afraid of failure and just fail forward. I should just take that chance and do it. And it's just brilliant. And then also hearing the conversation about how do we operate in that intersectionality of faith and doing good, because sometimes we think that doing good and faith is an easy fit, but there's some crossroads that we hit up on where we don't know where to go. And it's important to just be like, okay, let's pause, let's reflect, let's figure out what it is that we need in this moment. Is it empathy that we need? Is it to go forward? Is it to reverse? What is it that we need in this moment? And the power of pausing, the power of that just because you don't have to put a full stop. You could put it on and we could continue again. I think that this podcast is good to open up the conversation or the limits that persons place on doing good. Often, normally, when we think of do-gooders or we think about NGOs, non-governmental organization, we think of the woman on the side of the street begging for money for children, or we think of a barbecue, or we just think of this one-off thing, not realizing that you could have an entire career out of it. And even in this one season, we have spoken to people who has varying training and varying schools of thought, and they have still been able to do good. I mean, we have Renako, who entry into doing good came from applying to be a high commissioner for a day, and then he was exposed to a whole world that he had no clue about. And we have those who, when we interact with them on the front line, the young mothers, and they learn that, oh, you know what, maybe once things are able, you could become a social worker. This is a way to do good. Or a way to do good is just being active in your community. you could still be an accountant and do good. You could still be a nail tech and do good. It's just, how do you frame it? How do you do good? So when I was going through the process of naming the podcast, my friend Dexter was just like, "You're so odd. You're so different. So you're not like regular." And he's known me since I was a teenager. And since I was a teenager, I was about changing wheel and ending violence against women. I just wanted to do good in all shapes and form. And so it was a way of bringing it together to be like, I can't be the only person that doing good comes natural to, but also how do you break it down in a way that persons could realize that doing good isn't as hard as we think it is, that it's just about serving those in our community, operating in an ethical way. So I feel joy. I feel proud to be able to find a way that I could document the amazing work that's happening in the region and outside of the region, and create a spotlight where these persons can talk about the struggles that they face, to talk about the triumphs that they face, to talk about the fact that we're not quitting. We might take breaks, but we're going to keep on doing good until we can't do good anymore.